have that as a resource if you're stuck at home. Yeah. This is the last topic. Year 10s, okay? Volume. Now, essentially what volume is, if I can just grab your attention, so anyone who's doing work, if you just pause that, okay? Because then I know, you're trying to finish it and you want to get on top of it. But if you are continuing that, you are going to miss out on this. It's even harder, especially when you go home and you're doing it on your own. So volume basically just means the capacity for something to hold something, okay? So in this situation, you're just essentially trying to get the volume of this, right? So that just means what's in it. Area is talking about the space, but for a 2D thing, for a 2D object. Volume is for a 3D object, okay? So a rectangular prism, a cylinder, triangular prism, a square-based pyramid. How much can you fill it in? How much can you fill in? So like if you own a company and you're selling products, right? You need to make sure that you're giving the customers the value, and you need to make sure that it's not going to cost you also that much as well. So like people that make chips and all that stuff you guys eat, you probably notice they'll package a certain amount of volume and the rest is literally air. Every little drop counts, okay? So it costs the manufacturer's money and business's money as well. So in terms of real life situation, volume does matter, because if you multiply 20 cents by a million, that's a lot of money. People don't think that 20 cents is massive, but if you multiply it by a million, it's huge. Essentially, what volume is goes with one formula. See, I know there's multiple formulas with this topic. It's literally just one formula. Volume is equal to the area of repeated shape multiplied by the length, or some people call it the height. Okay? So whatever the shape that's being repeated, okay? So in this scenario, if the top was exactly the same chi as the bottom, okay? What's the repeated shape tensor the whole way through? The repeated shape. Sorry? Tensor? What's the repeated shape the whole way through? Like circle, correct. So literally, if you were to take a dissection of this thing, this jug, there's many circles that make it up. And when you stick it together, it forms a cylinder. What you multiply the area, you get the area of that repeated shape, you multiply it by the height. Some people are like, oh yeah, I know the formula is pi r squared height. Yeah, what's the area of a circle? Pi r squared. What's this? The height or the length. Doesn't really matter. But essentially that's what you're doing. So, like for example, the same thing with this pen. You're gonna find the area of this circle, you multiply it by the height. What the hell's going on? Oh, volume. We're trying to find out how much can fit in here, in a 3D object, okay? So if I drew this, let's say, random object, right? For example, yeah. Oh, true, okay. Oh, good, Chris, close. There we go. Okay, so if we find like a random object, for example, like this, and it's going at a length of this. So let's say the area is equal to 20 centimeters squared, and that's 5 centimeters, right? Basically, you grab that area and you multiply it by the length. That's the repeated shape that's following through the whole way through. Essentially, what you're doing is taking a dissection. They've given you the length of those dissections. Then you put them together. They've given it 5 centimeters, you multiply it, becomes 100. But why do we do volume? Why is it like, for example, cubed? What's the reason why it's cubed? Sorry? Yeah? There's 3 dimensions? But why is there a power of 3? You're right, you're on the right track. How does it become power of 3? Sorry? That is the metric units, you're right. But why? What's the reason? Why does it become cubed? It's related to a topic that you've done earlier. Starts with letter I. Index laws, right? So if I did this, 20 centimeters squared times, what was it? 5 centimeters. With indices, what do? We add the powers. Do you remember that? X squared times x becomes x cubed. That's why we have centimeters cubed. Okay? Some people are like, oh, why do we do it? And we just do it for the sake of it, right? So you add the powers. That's why it becomes cubed. All right? Squared, because you're doing length times width. 5 meters times 2 meters. 10 meters squared. Because meter to the power of 1, you add the other meter to the power of 1. Same thing here, guys. Right? Here, you're going to have to convert. Just go back to your distance formula. You know volume is going to be cubed. So what are you going to do? You just do it to the power of 3. In the previous topic, we've done squared. So you're done to the power of 2. Okay, that's the only difference. Going back to here, again, what's the repeated shape here? There's multiple repeated shapes. You can look at this on different angles. What one repeated shape could you see that's going through chi? Rectangle. So you find out the area of this and you multiply it by the length. What other area could you choose, Jasper, for this?
The square.
The square. So you could, this shape, yeah? So you could do area for that multiplied by the length. You don't need to know some fancy formula, just understanding the concept. Yeah? You could use a formula, it's totally fine. Some people get hooked up on the formula and then they use length times width times height for everything, right? Because we're so trained with that one formula, people think we've got to use it for everything. Not exactly, not for this question, all right? Just go with one thing. Area of the repeated shape multiplied by the length. What's the area of this? Oh, circle. So area of circle, which is pi r squared, times by the height. That's actually the formula, right? What's the r? Pi times r squared, which is 4 times your height, which is 6. 24 pi. This says 2 decimal places, you put 2 decimal places, and then remembering to put units. In year 11 and 12, you get marked off every time you make a units error. It's not 1 mark off the entire paper. It's 1 mark every single time, yeah? So that's basically it for that kind of section, right? Now, you're just gonna get the same shapes over and over again. Again, what's the repeated shape here? Sam, what's the repeated shape going through this whole thing? Triangle. Do we know the area of a triangle? Yeah, area of a triangle is half times base times height. Great. What do we need to multiply this area by? The length, right? You don't need to know some fancy formula, right? So you go half times base times height times by the length. Great. Now you just substitute it in. So half times, what's the base of this triangle? 9. Times the height of this triangle. What's this height of the triangle?
5.
Yeah, this is where it gets confusing, right? So I'm standing at the front, so it's a bit tough to see it, but it looks like it's 3. Well done. It is 3. Have a look at the triangle. It's 3 centimeters, yes or no, the height. That's why I always really suggest you guys draw a diagram. People go cheap on this diagram. They're like, oh, I can't be bothered, right? It actually works in moments like this because a lot of people will choose 5. If I was in a hurry, I'd choose 5. Break it down. Now I don't have to look back at that crazy diagram. I can just look back at my normal triangle, which I've drawn. Half times base times height. 3, what's the length that this triangle goes through? What's the length? Charlie, 5. Bingo, you're done. Game over. That's the end. That's calculated work now. That 1 mark goes to your working out. 90% of people will choose the height for that triangle as 5. But because we've drawn it here, it makes it more easier. Okay? So that's kind of done for that part. Okay? That's where it gets complicated. They just use the same triangles. So like, for example, here, what's a repeated shape for this particular question here? So we've got 2 things. You know that word composite? just means added onto, right? So what volumes have we added onto here adding? What two volumes do we need to work out?
Cylinder and
Right. Cylinder and the rectangular prism, right? Take your time, right? Jasper was funny, yeah? So take your time on that. Just go, you want to work out cylinder plus this rectangular prism. Don't do it in a hurry, just break it down. Let's do our cylinder, right? What's our radius for the cylinder? This is a very good question, right? What's the radius for the cylinder? That's the height of the cylinder.
3.
3.
3. That's actually 1.5.
No, it's actually, you're right, it is 4. My bad, it's 4. Okay? Sorry guys, when I'm closer to the board, the vision's a bit distorted, okay?
The height.
No. So 4 is this, right? That's the 4, it goes there. So this is where people make errors. What I do is break it down. Just go there and just do 4. Why is it 4? Because look at this. That entire thing is a circle. What's this length here? That's called the diameter. What's this part here? Remember, that is that. Then, that's also that too. Okay, it's kind of freaky, right? But when you break it down, go through it slowly, makes it easier, right? So, that's 4. Then what's the length of this? It's also 4 as well. Yes or no? Cool. Now you've done that, let's break it down. So volume of this cylinder is area of the repeated shape. What's the area of this shape? Pi r squared times by my height. Pi times my radius, which is 16, times by 4. Done that part. Now do this part. What's the area of what's the repeated shape here, Kai? Rectangle. It could be this, or it could be the top, right? It's vice versa. What would you choose, Kai? It's up to you. Yeah, which shape? Which one? Triangle. You're saying triangle. Which one would you choose? This one?
Yeah.
Let's go with the base. So that base looks like it's a square. Okay? So I'm just going to go volume is equal to length times length, which is this base part, multiplied by the height. Right, what's the base? 8 times 8, because that's the area of this, multiplied by the height, which is 3. That's going to be 64 times by 3. That's literally, you just add them up. Okay? That question can be very complicated if just jumped into and you just start substituting in numbers. That's where everything goes a bit crazy. Go through a bit slowly. That literally should take short time. Because I'm explaining it, it's going to take a while. Draw the two shapes. Work out the volume of one. Then move on to the next one. Then you just simply add them together. Okay? So basically, volume is equal to the area of the repeated shape multiplied by the length. Area of the repeated shape, which is a square, multiplied by the length. Or you could have done the area of this multiplied by the length. That's not exactly a square. That's a rectangle. So it's 24 times by 8. Okay, so that's basically it there. You're going to get like, look again guys, same thing here. Circle, circle. This is not different. What's the difference here? This is giving you what? Diameter. So you need to use your brain and don't do pi times 12 squared. That's where a lot of people are going to make errors like, oh, this is so easy. Pi times 12 squared. No, pi times 6 squared. Okay? Again here, the same thing here. Triangle, circle. Okay? It's not different. Okay? This is the same thing. That's weird. We don't know the formula for this shape. What do we know about anything about volume? Area of the repeated shape multiplied by how long that shape is. Okay? So, yeah, so it's literally that times by that. This is, what's this? That's a half a circle. So break it down. Okay, what's the volume? What's the area of that repeated shape? Half a circle. What the hell is half a circle? Half the area of a circle. Half the area of a circle. What's the area of a circle? Pi r squared. Then you multiply by the length. Cool. What does half of mean? Half times. Half times pi r squared. What's the radius for this? Is it 0.12? No. It's what? 0.06? Then I times by my length, 0.38. So what I did in this question is, I talked about it in my head, and I said that's a half of. I said, what does that mean? Half of means times, pi r squared divided by 2. Then multiply by the length. Same thing here. What's the repeated shape in this question here? What's the repeated shape there? What's that shape? Trapezium. Yeah? So that last one there, okay, is a trapezium. So we find out the area of a trapezium. Some people remember the area. You find that area, you multiply by the height. It's that straightforward. You don't have to remember the area of the volume of the trapezium. There is a volume formula for it. Area times by height. So you're all given a sheet that's given you the areas of every single shape. Yeah? This question, also very weird. What is that part of? This.
A triangle.
Very close. It looks like a triangle from here. It's got that curved section.
Yeah.
What is that part of?
Circle.
A circle. What part of a circle? 90 over 360. When you simplify that, what does that become? A quarter. Some people don't have to do 90 over 360. They'll go straight to a quarter. So, a quarter of the area of a circle, which is pi r squared, times by the length. Okay, that means pi r squared over 4 times by length. What's the radius there?
5.
Yeah, 0.5. Okay, pi times 0.5 squared over 4 times by my length is 0.8. That's your answer. You just don't want to mess it up when you enter in the calculator.
So,
Yeah.
what's the difference in a square and a rectangle?
So a square has the same sides. The rectangle has 2 different sides.
What's the difference in a rectangle and rhombus?
Oh, which one? A rhombus. I forgot that one. I'm pretty sure rhombus has parallel sides and the same length. I think. Parallel sides and the same length. But then what's a parallelogram? Oh, when the two, so here, that's a parallelogram.
Isn't that a diamond?
And then you got a diamond as well. So that's a parallelogram. Okay? Those two sides are parallel. Those two sides are parallel. Rhombus, I'm pretty sure, is when all of these sides have the same length. And they're also, this one's parallel to this. This one's also parallel to that. That one's a bit of a headache. Yeah, trying to notice, it's a small difference. Yeah? But yeah, guys, the craziest part is when you get like questions like this. What are you going to do in this scenario? Like, what do we have here? What shapes do we have here?
What?
A
You
house.
make a square and a cylinder, I meant a triangle.
Yeah,
House.
this is literally, you're right. So you got a cube, a rectangular prism, plus a triangle. You add those two together. All right.